All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of startups? We're going to be talking about Gregory Shepard's book, The Startup Lifecycle, today.
Oh, yeah. I love this book. It really changed how I thought about building a business.
Yeah, it kind of reframed everything for me, too. There are just so many practical takeaways in here.
Absolutely. We're going to try to unpack some of the most valuable pieces for our listeners today.
Definitely. Because whether you're thinking about launching your own venture or just want to understand how this whole startup thing works,
Yeah.
this book is like a roadmap. I mean, Shepard doesn't hold back. He shares his whole journey, the ups, the downs, even.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of downs, he actually starts the book by talking about how he used to sell rattlesnakes as a kid.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Rattlesnakes?
you heard that right?
Yeah.
Rattlesnakes.
Huh?
It's not your typical entrepreneurial origin story.
I mean, it's definitely not something you'd hear in a business school class.
Right.
Okay.
But he uses that experience to introduce this concept he calls the rattlesnake strategy.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So it's all about being hyper-aware of your surroundings, always adapting to new situations.
Kind of like a rattlesnake sensing its prey.
Exactly. Knowing when to strike when the opportunity is right.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the startup world. So how does this rattlesnake strategy tie into his whole startup science life cycle framework?
It's woven through each of the 7 phases he outlines. And the first phase, vision.
Okay,
He's very clear that it's so much more than just coming up with a cool idea.
right.
He actually shares this story about how he lost millions because he didn't think strategically about potential acquirers early on.
Ouch. That's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of thinking about the long game from the very beginning.
So it's not just about solving a problem, but also considering who might want to buy you out down the line.
Exactly. He calls it defining your North Star, that guiding principle that informs every decision you make.
Like that North Star. So how do you actually go about finding your North Star?
Well, first, you got to be crystal clear on who your ideal customer is. What are their pain points? What are their needs?
You need that laser focus.
Right. And then you need to go beyond your own assumptions. Get feedback from people you trust. Ideally, an advisory board.
Because even the best ideas can benefit from outside perspectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shepard actually credits his advisors with saving his biotech startup during the 2008 financial crisis.
Wow. That's a powerful testament to the importance of having a strong support system.
Absolutely. So it's about balancing ambition with a healthy dose of reality, making sure your vision resonates with the market and with potential investors.
So you've got your vision locked in. Now what?
Now you move into the product and go-to-market phases, which is where you start to actually bring that vision to life.
Okay, this is where things start to get tangible.
Right. It's time to build something people can actually use.
And I know we hear a lot about minimum viable products or MVPs these days.
We do.
Sometimes I feel like people throw that term around without really understanding what it means.
Yeah. I think Shepard offers a really insightful perspective on this.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He uses the Segway as an example.
The Segway, the one that was supposed to revolutionize transportation.
That's the one.
It just didn't take off.
Right. And Shepard argues that's because it wasn't really solving a problem people desperately needed solved.
So just because you have a cool gadget doesn't mean it's going to be a hit.
Exactly. He emphasizes building an MVP, not to show off your tech skills, but to get it into the hands of real users as quickly as possible.
To validate your assumptions?
Exactly. You need that constant feedback loop to make sure you're on the right track.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got your MVP, you're getting feedback. Now, what about actually getting people excited about your product? How do you approach that whole go-to-market thing?
That's a great question. And Shepard's approach is way more nuanced than just running some Facebook ads.
Okay, good. Because I think we're all kind of tired of seeing those same ads over and over.
He talks about building a compelling narrative, not just listing features and benefits, but telling a story that resonates with your target audience.
So instead of shouting from the rooftops, you're strategically weaving a story.
Exactly. And he's a big believer in demand generation. Pulling people in by offering valuable content and positioning yourself as a trusted resource.
That feels much more authentic.
Authenticity is key.
Yeah.
And this is where he brings in a concept that might surprise you. Standardization.
Standardization. It sounds a little corporate for a scrappy startup. How does he make that exciting?
Well, he argues that as you start to grow, having consistent processes for everything from onboarding employees to handling customer support is crucial.
I guess that makes sense. You don't want to be reinventing the wheel every time you hire someone new or get a customer inquiry.
Right. It reduces risk and creates a more scalable operation. He actually shares how his company Affiliate Traction managed to reduce their onboarding time from 7 months to just 30 days through standardization.
Wow, that's a huge improvement. I can see how that would free up so much time and energy to focus on the bigger picture. But doesn't too much standardization stifle creativity?
That's where phase 5 optimization comes in. Shepard is all about that continuous improvement mindset.
Okay, so it's about finding that balance between having a solid foundation and still being able to adapt and improve.
Exactly. And to measure that improvement, he's all about using data to make informed decisions. This is where key performance indicators or KPIs come in.
I've heard of KPIs, but I always get a little overwhelmed by all the different metrics businesses track. How does Shepard suggest using them in a way that actually makes sense?
Well, he breaks it down into leading and lagging indicators. Leading KPIs are all about predicting future outcomes,
Okay.
while lagging KPIs track the results of your past actions. It's like having a rearview mirror and a crystal ball.
I like that analogy. So you're not just reacting to what's already happened, but using data to anticipate future trends?
Exactly. It's about making proactive adjustments.
That's powerful. But when I think about the later stages of a startup,
My mind goes to those crazy growth stories you hear
oh
about.
yeah, the hockey stick growth.
Right. Is that really what Shepard prioritizes in his growth phase?
That's where it gets interesting. He actually cautions against chasing rapid growth just for the sake of it.
Real
He
on.
uses Groupon as an example.
Groupon. They were huge.
They exploded early on, but then they struggled to maintain that momentum. Shepard argues it's because they weren't focusing on profitable, sustainable growth.
So it was like building a house of cards. Impressive at first, but ultimately unstable.
Exactly. He emphasizes that quality trumps quantity when it comes to customer acquisition.
So it's not just about racking up users.
It's about cultivating superfans,
Yeah.
people who are truly aligned with your vision and who will stick around for the long haul.
I love that term superfans. It reminds me of how musicians build those dedicated followings,
Yeah.
offering exclusive content, early access, fostering a real sense of community. Think about the brands that have passionate online communities.
Yeah.
They're not just selling a product. They're creating an experience, a sense of belonging.
It's a whole different way of thinking about customer relationships.
It is.
Mm.
And Shepard believed that startups can learn a lot from those models.
It's fascinating. So how does all of this tie into the final phase exit?
Well, this is where his long game thinking really comes into play.
Okay.
He believes you should have an exit strategy in mind from the very beginning.
Whoa, really? Isn't that jumping the gun a bit?
Not according to Shepard. He suggests identifying potential acquirers early on
Okay.
and starting to build relationships with them strategically.
So you're not just waiting for someone to swoop in with a big offer. You're planting those seeds from day one.
Exactly. It's about positioning yourself as an attractive acquisition target.
That makes sense. And when it comes time to actually present your startup to potential acquirers, what does Shepard recommend?
He emphasizes that it's about more than just flashing your financial statements. You need to demonstrate the strategic value you bring to the table.
So it's not just about how much money you're making.
Right. He uses Google's acquisition of YouTube as a prime example.
YouTube. That was a huge deal.
It was. And it wasn't just about acquiring a platform with a lot of users.
So what was it about?
It was about YouTube's potential to enhance Google's search and advertising capabilities. It fits seamlessly into their existing ecosystem.
So you're selling the vision, the potential for synergy and future growth.
Exactly. And Shepard emphasizes that even in this final phase, adaptability and continuous improvement remain paramount.
Because the market never stands still,
No.
right? Even when you've achieved a certain level of success, you need to stay nimble,
Exactly. It's like you're constantly running a marathon.
even after you've crossed the finish line.
That's a great analogy. Building a successful startup is definitely not a sprint. It's a test of endurance, resilience, and strategic thinking.
But as Shepard's own journey shows, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience.
Absolutely. So we've walked through all 7 phases of Shepard's startup science lifecycle. It's a comprehensive framework that offers a lot to unpack.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting to explore this world.
Exactly. What are your biggest takeaways so far? What aspects of his approach resonate with you the most?
I think for me, it's that idea of adaptability. It's like a thread that runs through every phase.
Right. It's not just about having a good idea or even a great product.
It's about having that mindset.
Exactly. That rattlesnake awareness.
Yeah.
Being ready to pivot when you need to.
And Shepard actually makes a point of saying that this entrepreneurial thinking,
Yeah,
it's not just for startups.
absolutely. These principles can be applied to any area of life where you're trying to create something new.
Or overcome obstacles or just achieve ambitious goals.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that resilience, that
Hey.
ability to learn from setbacks, and keep moving forward.
And I think that's what makes this book so powerful. It's not just a how-to guide. It's a mindset shift.
Right. It's about embracing challenges as opportunities for growth.
And constantly looking for ways to optimize your approach.
Exactly. Whether you're building a billion-dollar company or just trying to make a difference in your own little corner of the world.
Well said. So I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. We've really gone deep on Shepard's startup science life cycle.
It's a framework that has a lot to offer anyone who's interested in the world of startups or just in achieving their goals.
And I hope our listeners are walking away with some new insights and a renewed sense of inspiration.
Me too. So, as you go about your week, think about those principles we discussed today.
Yeah.
Vision validation, standardization, optimization, strategic growth.
And don't forget that rattlesnake awareness. Always be adapting. Always be learning. And never give up on your dreams.